Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Passport to Possibilities series. We are super excited tonight to have Jake from Quark Expeditions. Welcome, Jake.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Good to be here.
We're excited to find out everything that we need to know in about 30 minutes or less on Quark and where you go and the amazing destinations that you guys explore.
Yeah, got a lot to cover tonight. It's going to be 30 minutes or more. I wouldn't say less. But yeah, we'll definitely be covering everything that we do from the Arctic to the Antarctic and how you can see that with Quark Expeditions.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I am going to shut off my audio and I'm going to let you take it away.
Perfect. Thanks, Susan. Let's jump into it and take my video off as well, as it's quite distracting for me. But yeah, guys, thanks for joining today. As Susan said, my name is Jake, and today we're going to be talking about polar adventure travel with Quark Expeditions. But first off, why travel with Quark? Well, obviously we are fantastic at what we do, and I'm going to jump into all of that now. But while every expedition at Quark starts on the ship, the real adventure is what awaits off ship, and to step foot where few ever dream of going. And at Quark, that is what we do. We travel to the ends of the earth, quite literally, to explore some of the most remote and unique destinations you simply just can't do on your own. Operating for almost 35 years and solely in the Arctic and the Antarctic, that is our bread and butter. We are polar obsessed. And as you can see in the bottom right there, polar obsessed since 1991. So this is our area of operations. Those two circles there happen to be the Antarctic and the Arctic circle. So really easy when it comes to Quark and what we do. Anything polar, that is where we are. But let's start with our fleet, and we're going to talk about all of the different ships and ways you can see the polar regions with us and on board. We have, but first we want to really cover off on something that's very important here, and that is the categories when it comes to ship passenger numbers. So anything that is 501 passengers or more is what we call a cruise only. So down in Antarctica, there's very strict rules and regulations when it comes to how many people you can have on board the ship and where you can go, how many people you can have on land, that type of thing. So anyone ship that has those incredible deals like $2,000 to Antarctica, and it is on a ship that has more than 500 passengers, that is a sail only. A little hard to see a 3-foot penguin from your 15th story balcony, but obviously there is a market for that, and some people may want to intend to go after that type of experience, but that is not an expedition. Category 2 is any ship that is 201 passengers to 500. There are a lot of competitors out there, a lot of other organizations that are just starting to now try to make their way into the expedition space. There's quite a lot of ships out there with 300, 400, 500 people on them. Again, that is an expedition. You will do landings, most likely one landing a day. Any more than that, it does tend to be a bit of a logistical challenge, though, sometimes they will get you out twice, but it is very, very dependent on weather, as well as, obviously having those rules and regulations in Antarctica, like 100 people on land at only one time, and even places like Svalbard, we're only allowed to have 39 people. Now, the good thing is, Quark, all of our vessels are category 1, so we have less than 200 passengers across the entire fleet, and I'll talk more about the individual ships in a minute. So we will get to go to a lot more places than those other larger ships will go to, as well as we do have the correct permits and rules and regulations with our vessels to be able to take you into some of the most crazy, incredible destinations that you will just not be able to do with anyone else. So let's dive straight in. The World Explorer, she is a 172 passenger vessel, all suite, all balcony, and is an ice rated 1B ice rated ship. Now we are retiring her next year, so in 26-27 we'll be bringing on the World Voyager. Now she's similar to the World Explorer. She's bookable now, so you can actually book for 26-27 on board the World Voyager, and there's a few different slight changes that we're making, and I'll talk more about that as we go on. She's a 168 passenger vessel, again, 1B ice rated, so we can take her deep into ice, and we only operate her down in Antarctica. Now, everything you'd expect, big, beautiful rooms, all natural lighting, and all the amenities you'd want from a floating luxury hotel. Upgradable cabins like the Superior Suite with lots of room to move and large balcony space there as well. The glass domed observation lounge on deck 7, a comfortable place to relax and enjoy panoramic polar views, as well as everyone's favorite, the panorama lounge has a bar. So you can sit there, have a drink, have a cocktail or two, and share some photos and make some new friends. Or you can go to the spa. Again, all of our ships are built, so even though you are on board, you can still see out into the environment, be able to be on the lookout for different types of wildlife. So everywhere you go, you will get these big, massive windows, even places like the spa, so you can still be on the lookout for that wildlife. Excuse me. Observation deck. Now, again, as I just said, everything is built so you can be still in the environment on board the ship. So we have the unobstructed views on deck with wraparound balconies and that type of thing. So again, when you have a polar bear on the starboard side that's making its way over to the other side of the ship, you can just simply walk across the observation deck or around the panoramic lounge area. So again, going back to my point, all of our ships are built so it doesn't matter where you are, you have those incredible polar views. Even in the restaurant, where we are serving delicious meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, catering, excuse me, catering for many, many different types of food allergies and preferences. Now, the ultramarine. Now, I know we're not supposed to have a favorite. Like children, you are supposed to love them all the same, but this is my favorite, the ultramarine, for a number of reasons. I'm a bit of an aviation buff, and it does have 2 helicopters on board. She's a 199 guest passenger ship with a PC6 ice rating. So she's the next category down from an icebreaker. I mean, again, we can push her further into fjords and ice-ridden areas with lots of sea ice and that type of thing, and even park it up in the ice in places like Svalbard, which is right up north near the ice patch. As I said, the Ultramarine, she's a beautiful ship. Now, this is what really just set us apart is we have designed this ship ourselves. We put all of our experience over the last almost 35 years into a vessel. Things as simple as like the ready rooms. This just makes it so much logistically easy getting everyone off the ship, where you go down, all of your winter gear or waterproof gear, whatever you want to call it, is in one nice and easy accessible location that is a very high temperature as well. Because you are going to be off the ship a lot with Quark, we want your gear to be able to dry so you're not cold and wet for your next outing, as well as you don't have to leave all your stuff in your cabin, so you have extra room to move. And again, going back to my point of logistics, being able to get everyone off the ship as quickly and as safe as possible really does make it easier when it comes to maneuvering and being in places we want everyone to see as much as possible and to get off the ship and back on as quickly as we can. Bar and lounge, like all of our ships, they gone are the days of Russian icebreakers and bunk beds and all of that. We have these floating luxury, 5-star hotels. Now, this is not what gets me excited, but the off ship is what I'm more about. But again, you can comfortably know that sailing with Quark, you are going to be on a 5-star luxury premium product that is going to give you all of the trimmings from those 5-star hotels or anything that you might be used to. Now, the room's well appointed. Again, lots of natural lighting. Spacious rooms, balconies, the whole shebang. It's all there for you. And obviously those upgradable options like the penthouse suite here, as you can see. Now, I'll just come back for a second. Now, the penthouse suite is actually 369 square feet of indoor living space, and it actually has a 67 square foot balcony. Again, going back to my point, we have those upgradable cabins with lots and lots of room. Plenty of places to relax. As I said, we want you to be off the ship as much as possible. We also want you to enjoy yourself. At the end of the day, this is still a vacation, even though it's an adventure vacation. You still get downtime, and you can dictate the tempo of your trip. If you want to be off the ship and do every single landing and activity possible, go for it. If you don't, you can certainly take advantage of the ship's amenities and places to relax, like the spa, floor-to-ceiling windows, as I mentioned on all of our ships. Now, the wraparound balcony, I sort of touched on this a minute ago. This is something that isn't actually on a lot of ships. It might seem like something that's quite simple, though us, again, designing the ship ourselves, we definitely wanted a 360-degree wraparound balcony, and it has come since so handy in many places. Down in Antarctica, we had so many whales around the ship, and just being able to walk in 360 degrees around the vessel without having to go inside or through a maze, it made so much easier when it comes to following these guys and getting the right photo. But my personal favorite, the helicopters. A bit of an aviation buff, as I said. I snapped this photo on my iPhone just moments before we went out in the helicopter last year to fly over Antarctica. The H145 Airbus is actually one of the safest, most fuel efficient, and the most quiet helicopter you can get in the industry. We actually worked with Airbus to make sure the rotor wingtips don't break the sound barrier. So again, creating a much more silent, I guess you could say, feel when we're out using these guys. We use them everywhere but Svalbard. We do not use them up there as there's just too many marine mammals. And just on that, we do not use the helicopters for wildlife viewing. These helicopters are used for flight seeing to see the landscape, or in Greenland to take you up into the Alpine where we go camping, or might be for a heli hike or a heli landing, which I'll talk more about in a minute. But the most important thing to note, the helicopter is used as a transfer service, I guess you could say, and for flight seeing activities, not for wildlife viewing. Now, they are 8-seaters, but we only take 7 passengers, so every single person does get a window, and this is an included activity when helicopter operations are on offer. So again, not something that you have to pay extra for, though there are optional extras that you can beef up your experience. I'll talk more about that later on. Now, going on to our next ship, the Ocean Explorer. She is a 1A or a P6 ice-rated vessel. Only 138 guests. Very, very new to Quark. We actually took ownership of her last year, so we're just started operating her this last Antarctic season and up into the Arctic. Now, it has this very unique X-bow design. So if you see the front of the ship here that I'm pointing at, that is very different to what you might see with other vessels. An X-bow design basically cuts through a wave instead of going over a wave. So it's very stable in rough swells. So you do want to go and experience the Arctic and Antarctic and you're a little bit worried about seasick, this is probably the vessel for you, as it's the most stable ship you can get. Having that X-bow does create for some very awesome views when you're in the atrium or lounge area. You can be up the top here, and as we are going through, if it might happen to be rough swells, you can get some great photos, or even things like having dolphins and porpoises and things jumping at the front of the ship. You can actually see straight down because of that X-bow design. It's also a great place to sit back, relax, read a book, or have a beer, whatever you want to do in between landings and lectures and dinner time. So this is a great place to mingle. Like all of our vessels, I've said already, big, beautiful, massive rooms, all that natural light coming through. Again, tick, tick, tick. I'm not going to dive too much into this. That's not what we are selling. Obviously, as I said before, we are selling a premium luxury product. The ships are beautiful, everything you'd expect, but we are more focused on what you're going to see. So again, you can be knowing that you're going to be in luxury. Talk about sustainability real quick. It's very important. We definitely, as a human race, need to start deciding on who we travel with and making sure we are traveling with the right partners and people that are looking after the planet rather than destroying it. So we have created the Sustainability Polar Promise with Quark, and that is covering a whole range of different aspects of the organization, even things like having on board the ultramarine the micro auto gasification system, which basically reduces our waste volume up to 95%. More fuel efficient engines and things like that. Our goal was by the end of this year to cut our emissions by 10%, and we're well and truly going to smash that. And we will look at our goals for the next year, hopefully soon. But we are doing everything we possibly can as an organization to make sure we're having a positive impact on the environment and the places we're visiting. So not just the environment, we want to make sure that even the communities we're going to, Inuit villages and things like that, that we are, again, having a positive influence and making sure we are helping them rather than just being a burden. Even little things like this. This is a photo that was taken on my most recent expedition to Svalbard last month, where we were removing lots of fishing nets and things like that from the beach. So we're doing, again, everything we possibly can. A lot of companies like to say leave only footprints. We actually want to do one step better. We want to make sure that we are removing things that shouldn't be there, again, having a positive influence. But let's talk about what I wanted to really dive into is our adventure options. So at Quark, we have more than any other operator, more off-ship experiences. So what that means is that you are going to be outside in the environment, exploring by so many more different means from the land, the sea, and even the air than you will with anyone else. That is why we are constantly doing fantastic results when it comes to sales. Our ships are going out mostly full. Obviously, in the Arctic, it's a little bit harder as there's a lot of competition up there and it doesn't have the big draw card like Antarctica does. But getting back from there recently, honestly, I would consider the Arctic over Antarctic. But that is just me because I'm very lucky to travel to both. But again, going back to what I'm getting at is if you want to travel to the places in Antarctica and the Arctic, let's face it, they most likely will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So traveling with Quark makes sense as you will see and experience more. I can't make that clearer. You will do more with us. And that is why people love our product. Things like simple as photography, having world-renowned onboard photographers to help you with your camera and your iPhones, hiking up in the mountains, camping down in Antarctica, even in Greenland. kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, paddling, which is a little bit different to sea kayaking. It's where you actually sit up on an inflatable raft. Tundra at a table, where we bring Inuit chefs on board to cook in front of you. Mountain biking, Zodiac cruising. You will know the ins and outs of a Zodiac by the end of day one. Helicopters, as I mentioned, like heli landings, hiking. There's a whole different range of different things here. But as I said, the Zodiacs, this is going to be you in and out of them consistently throughout your voyage. And this is a photo, again, it's just one I took. That's me actually there on the right. I'm a big boy. I'm 200 pounds and 6 foot, like just to show you, you get plenty of space on board these. We do not cram them full of people. We have the best guest to guide ratio in the industry. So we are very fortunate that every single Zodiac will always be staffed by an expedition team member, not a sailor from, the Philippines or a different country that, might not necessarily know what you're looking at, but an expedition expert that can, give you all of the information while you're out in the environment rather than the lecture back on board, as well as plenty of room to move and take all of the photos that you wish. We also have the polar plunge, great way to wake up. You can actually do it. There's me again in Antarctica, as far south as 66 degrees south. And you can also do it, funny enough, I took the same pose in the Arctic at 81 degrees north. So just a little bit funny little there to show you. You can do the polar plunge very far north and very far south. That was a very cold day. I won't go too much into details, but it was freezing. Now, the Greenland camp experience. This is an awesome experience, very unique to Quark, as we use our helicopters and our relationships with the local Inuit people to go up into the alpine regions and actually camp out overnight under the stars, where you'll go pick root vegetables for a salad, go fishing, and actually have someone from the local community there cutting up the fish and serving it to you, as you can see in this photo. The ice sheet experience, where we take you out on the second largest ice sheet in the world, which happens to be in Greenland. We'll go out with a glaciologist. And you'll go for a bit of a hike with the crampons and the walking sticks out for a couple of hours and really see and experience Greenland from a completely different perspective, again, by helicopter. We even have mountain biking. This sometimes might be used by helicopter. It might just be a bit of a hike or even getting off the beach and having the bikes there. It just depends on where we're using them. But again, just pushing the envelope when it comes to adventure options. Now, heli landings, exactly as it sounds, we're landing far away from the coast, up in the mountains, giving you a completely different perspective of the destination we're in at the time. And we go for a bit of a walk, not too far from the helicopter. Heli hiking, again, exactly as it sounds, we're landing, but you're going on a bit more of a hike. We might drop you in one location and pick you up in another, or you might hike down to meet the boat. Wherever it is we're doing, you'll be with an alpine guide that is excuse me, sorry, that is obviously very proficient in work in alpine operations. Now, our expedition team, now this isn't your typical cruise. We don't have Broadway shows, casinos, none of that. This is an expedition. Your entertainment is the destination and the people that are going to be presenting the destination to you. They're glaciologists, historians, ornithologists, even people that are obsessed with penguins. We do call them penguinologists, though they tend to be an ornithologist. But one of our guides on board, he's been with us for 31 years and is obsessed and knows everything there is to know about penguins. So these are the types of caliber of people that we are getting it to work for Quark, and we are the only organization that they must pass the Quark Polar Academy to be able to actually work for Quark. And if they don't, they do not work for us. So that is something that we set a very, very high standard of professionalism and safety guidelines, and we do put them through their paces so we know that they can work with us in the polar regions. Now, let's talk about science and discovery. Now, we are rolling out a pretty awesome science discovery center on board our new ship that we're getting, the World Voyager. This is going to be all about bringing guests into the fold when it comes to science and onboard research that is happening right in front of you. We're also working with Penguin Watch, the Finlandia Lab, Happy Whale, and the Polar Collective to come up with an incredible science center on board, and as well as more hands-on experiences. So that is getting rolled out as we speak. I don't have too many details on it, but one of the things I have recently been told is we will have a portable hydrophone unit on our Zodiac. Now, I hope you can hear this. Now, what that was the actual sounds of a humpback whale underneath the Zodiac. So what we're doing is, again, we're trying to push the envelope when it comes to your experience, what you're going to see, what you're going to hear. But many times I've been out in Zodiacs and we've had whales underneath, and I've got some incredible footage putting the GoPro in the water and things like that. But how great would it be to be able to hear them talking? And now we can. So that is, again, something that we are going to be offering, where we record that and offer that to you at the end of your expedition. Now let's talk about the Arctic. Now in the Arctic, we do the Canadian Arctic, Greenland, Iceland, and Svalbard. All of our guides here, you can see they actually are armed. That is just more of a safety precaution. Where you go out hiking, walking, again in the zodiacs. You'll be lots of exploring, but I'm going to dive into Svalbard right now as I just got back. Now, Svalbard is next to Greenland, just above Norway, as you can see there, and about 500 miles from the North Pole. With us, you do it differently. This is some screenshots I took of marine traffic of where the ultramarine was, just to give you an understanding of all of these other boats here are like our competitors or freight liners and things like that. But here we are, all the way over here on our own. And up here, about 50 kilometers from Siberia, Russia. So just to give you an understanding that even though you might see it with lots of other companies, we are doing it a little bit differently. We even go as far north as 81.5 degrees. The ship last a couple of weeks ago actually went to 82 degrees north. And this just to give you a bit of an understanding that we take you all the way up into the pack ice. Best time to go to Svalbard is between May to August. And that has a lot to do with the animals and wildlife you're going to see here. So there's over 200 different species of seabirds, guillemonks, Arctic terns, northern fulmars, just to name a couple. They all land here in places like this, and the eggs are actually adapted to not roll off cliffs. They have a square surface, I guess you could say, and this is something that everyone has to see to believe. A quick little photo I snapped here of an Arctic fox. The aftermath of this is exactly what you think is a bird in a fox's mouth. But just to give you a bit of an understanding of the types of photos you can get, even just from a zodiac and being in these types of areas. Now, polar bears, obviously a very popular thing and an animal that people want to see up in Svalbard. It is home of the polar bear, with more polar bears than people. And a lot of people do ask how close they get. I don't know if you can see here, but at the very top of this photo is the polar bear, and here's the ultramarine, and there's me in the black hat and the black lens. So just to give you an understanding, we can get quite close, even though there are lots of rules and regulations around polar bear viewing. Up in the Arctic, away from Svalbard, there's different rules and regulations that apply, and we adhere to everything and make sure that we do not disturb these animals. But they do make for some incredible photos. This is one of the ones I snapped just moments after the polar bear had come up to the back of the ship. Or for bird nerds, we have incredible bird wildlife that you can see here. The guillemonks and things taking off. I swear these birds should not fly. They're hilarious to watch. They need like a couple of 100 meters to get up into the air. And puffins. Again, just a photo that I took just randomly with a puffin cruising on by the zodiac. So lots of different types of birds and gulls and things like that here. And then up there we have the walruses. A group of walruses actually called a huddle, which I love even more now. And I believe we have Emily on the call that was up there just a couple of weeks ago who snapped this photo. Emily, you want to just share a little bit about this particular moment?
Yes. This experience is like pretty amazing. It's like while walking towards the walruses, it's like your heart is pumping. Like it's really, you get so excited when you get there. It's like you won't stop looking at them. That
No, I totally understand what you mean.
yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
like just I was up there on the voyage just before Emily, and we saw the same huddle walruses, and this is them swimming. This is the first time I've seen a walrus, and Emily's right. Like the experience and the feelings that you get from seeing these types of animals. Like I grew up in Australia. My life, I never even knew a walrus was an animal until later on in life, and then working for expeditions, and then to see these people, to see these types of animals in the flesh right in front of you, and just like 30 meters away, it's just something that you have to see to believe. And honestly, the smell is something I will never forget.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Emily. Appreciate that. But again, they make for some great photos. This guy was very grumpy. We actually he was called Master of the Beach, or Beach Master. Every beach where you find a huddle of walruses, there is one dominant male, and this was this guy, and he was very, very grumpy and smelly, as I've said. But if you are looking at Svalbard, this is the trip that I'd probably be considering. 11 days in duration, starting in Helsinki, which is a beautiful place to go. And I would recommend going a few days earlier and getting the ferry over to Tallinn. Why not tick, two countries, or well, three when you think about it. Longyearbyen is up in Spitsbergen, which is Svalbard, which is Norway. So there you go. You can tick three countries quite easily, as well as get the experiences of all the things I've just spoken about. Now, Greenland. Moving into Greenland, the best time to go is between July and October. But with us, we are all about seeing it differently from the land, the sea, and the air. But when I say from the air, not only are we taking you out, obviously, by helicopter and dropping you some incredible destinations, this is where we're offering that camp experience I spoke about earlier. We will literally set up a tent out under the stars, high up into the mountains, where you can see the northern lights because it's above the cloud layer. This is an incredible experience and limited to only, I think, 15 people and pre-bookable. So you can get in, book it, knowing that if the weather tolerates, we're allowed to go. We'll definitely be taking you up to do this experience. Here's 2 travel agents that we actually luckily sent on out our trip to Greenland last year. And the experience that these 2 had was just remarkable. We were putting you seriously in some of the most pristine, incredible environments the world has to offer, where you will be up front and right in front of things like this is just a massive, massive glacier stretching, hundreds of kilometers back up into the mountains. Or here is a photo of my colleague Taylor. One of the questions he actually gets quite frequently is how long it took for him to get up there. And he always confidently says about 2.5 minutes. And the reason for that is he used our lovely helicopters to get up there. So again, you don't have to be Lance Armstrongs of the world to do this. Yes, we might look like we're quite an adventurous operator, and we are, but we have something for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a little less mobile in your 80s or even 90s or your early 20s. We take people as young as 8 all the way through to as old as whatever you feel comfortable with. And we have something for everyone there is. Just a couple more photos. This is of my colleague Taylor on the ice sheet experience where he landed. Went out with the glaciologist, as I spoke about before, and you learn everything there is to learn about ice and glaciers. I'd never been really that interested in any of that. Moved to Canada, slightly got a little bit more interested. But then when you sit and hear and you speak to a glaciologist, it's very infectious. You are then finding yourself asking Google so many questions about or asking the glaciologist in front of you so many questions about ice. And even today, now that I see a glacier, I'm looking at it differently. These are life-changing experiences. Now, up in Greenland, we have a couple of trips here, 14 days in and out of Reykjavik under the Northern Lights. Incredible itinerary. Again, if you want to see and experience the Northern Lights in Greenland and Iceland. We have the 13-day in and out of Reykjavik up to Nuuk, sailing on down to the south of Greenland, and those big large yellow boxes is where we're going to be operating. If you look online or if you talk to your local travel agent, you'll notice that our itineraries are very vague, and that is for a reason. These are expeditions. We'll give you an understanding or an idea where we're going to go or what we're going to try to do, but it will all be dependent on the day. Now, moving up into Canada, we don't try to do the whole Northwest Passage, as to be quite honest with you, that would be a 13-day trip, and I have worked with other companies and it just does not sell, as it's just too long. And past this part that is highlighted, there is not a lot more to see. The highlighted area is the big ticket items of the Canadian Arctic. The Baffin Islands of the world, the Resolutes and the communities, all of those areas tend to lie within here, and that is why we focus on this part. Now, the best way to talk about Canada in our own backyard, it's all about the landscape. It is just absolutely incredible. This here is the Torngat National Parks, which we do extensively. We will use all of the toys we possibly have, from the kayaks to the helicopters and everything in between, and hiking. And it's the only place in Canada that you can see black bears and polar bears in one destination. But to me, that looks like Hawaii on a cold day. And also the people, the culture. Now, this is obviously there is wildlife you could possibly see, but it's more so based on, like I said, landscape and the culture and visiting those really remote communities where some of these places will have an open door policy where they'll ask you and invite you in to come in for a cup of tea. Because we are one of the only operators that go to some of these villages, they're very, very open and friendly, and they want our guests to come and learn and be a local, even if it's just for a few hours. But the experiences you will have and the people you meet and the stories you will hear will just make your trip so much more remarkable. And the history. Our online historian will talk all about the many failed attempts to cross the passage, Ronald Armidson, and him going missing and all of those types of people, and the many deaths that have actually occurred up there, and even the Viking history. So lots and lots to learn. And as I said, lots of polar bears and things like that you may or may not get to see. One of the trips I'll be talking about in and out of Calgary, nice and easy for those in Alberta, is Canada's remote Arctic. It's 12 days in duration. And as I said, it'll go up to Resolute, around Devon Island, Ellesmere, and Axel Hemmelberg Island. So lots to see and experience there. I actually flew over this entire area of Arctic Bay just a couple of weeks ago, and the photos I got from the sky are just incredible, just ice everywhere. We also have the 17-day Northwest Passage trip. This was originally from Toronto. It's now been changed to Reykjavik, Iceland. So it starts in Reykjavik up to Kangerlussuaq, Greenland, and then sailing and finishing in Resolute for your trip back to Calgary. So incredible trip here that you get to tick off Iceland as well, tick off Greenland, and the Northwest Passage. Or we have our 3 Arctic Island trip, which is the trip that Emily, I believe, just got back from. So it's starting in Helsinki with a charter flight to Longyearbyen, sailing on down through Greenland. This one doesn't show it, but you will actually stop in Jan Mayen, which I think I pronounced that correct, Emily. Is that how you say it? Jan Mayen? Jan Mayen?
Jan Mayen.
Jan Mayen. Thank you. There you go. Which is an incredible place that is very, very rarely visited. And then obviously finishing in Reykjavik. We also have solar eclipse expeditions coming up. We have 2. We have a 13-day and a 17-day. If you want more information on that, reach out. One just sold out. I believe it was the 13-day trip. So the 17-day is still available and is going to sell out probably within the next couple of weeks. Moving on to Antarctica quickly. I know that we're running short on time, but up in the Antarctic, down in the Antarctic, we do the Antarctic Peninsula, we do Falklands, we do South Georgia, we do Patagonia, and a place called Snow Hill. Here's our route map here, showing you a bit of everything that we do, but I'm going to dive into Snow Hill, and I just want you to keep in mind where I'm pointing right now. It's on the right-hand side of the continent over in the Weddell Sea. That'll be important when I talk about Snow Hill in a minute. We have some new expeditions coming up. We have Antarctic marine mammals, which was 11 days in length, and this eel will have Ari Friendlandia from the Friendlandia Lab on board. He's been doing whale research since 1997, and we'll be doing a lot of ongoing studies and tagging and a lot of things like that on board with all of our guests, and is something that I'm very looking forward to and hoping to be on this particular voyage myself. We'll also have a research associate from Happy Whale. Now, Happy Whale is a database where our guests can upload photos of whales' tails, and like a fingerprint, we can identify that whale simply by the shape and markings of their tail. Now, if you get a whale that isn't in that database, you can name that whale for future reference, which is pretty awesome. So again, another way that we're bringing our guests into the fold when it comes to ongoing research. We also have another trip here, Antarctica by helicopter. We have 2 new trips here. We have one that is crossing the circle, and we'll have one that is going over to the other side of the continent of Antarctica, as I mentioned before, in the Weddell Sea, and bombing around these mountains and islands here, as you can see in this top photo. It's 12 days in duration and is an incredible opportunity to go where very, very few people get to go to Antarctica. About 100,000 people a year go, and I'd say probably 95% of them go over here on the left-hand side where it says Lamar Channel. So to be that 5% over in the Weddell Sea would be pretty awesome to see and experience, and doing it obviously by helicopter. Now, should I fly or sail to Antarctica? There's a question I get almost on a daily basis. You can sail down, and I would highly suggest doing it if you have the time, and also if you are not prone to seasickness. I think sailing is the way to go, but again, you can fly down. So if you wanted to skip the Drake entirely, you can fly down and meet the ship in King George Island. It's great for those people that don't have too long to take off, as you are theoretically missing 4 days of sailing. Or you can fly down, sail back. So we do have the option, if you do want to say you've done the Drake Passage at least once, you can do that and do a 10-day trip and then fly home. South Georgia. This is where you can see photos like this, where you have thousands and thousands of king penguins, the 2nd largest penguin in the world. Lots of seals, lots of big birds, elephant seals. As I've said, these guys, they just absolutely stink like walruses, and they're massive. They are huge, massive animals to see up close and personal. But this is the draw card. This is why people are wanting to go. There's over 200,000 mating king penguins in this photo. If you want to count them, by all means, go for it, but we don't have time right now. The trip that I'd probably be talking about, if you were looking at Antarctica, the one to start with would be Epic Antarctica, as it covers everything. Starts in Buenos Aires, charter flight to Ushuaia, Stanley in the Falklands, South Georgia to see the king penguins, crossing the Antarctic Circle, the peninsula, and then back to Ushuaia for your charter flight to Buenos Aires. Yeah, sure, it's 23 days in length. Maybe not everyone can take that sort of time off work. We do have many different expeditions out there that do Antarctica. Check them out and ask your agent for more information. Now, Patagonia, almost done here, guys. Patagonia, we have recently started doing Patagonia, and we're a little bit worried because there are a lot of uncharted waters down there and a lot of fjords that a ship of our size has never been into. So we actually bought this system here called the WASP, which is a sonar mapping system that goes out at about 50 feet in front of our ship, the Ultramarine. It is sending the information back to the captain and is mapping the floor of the ocean. So we are actually charting our own ways and going into fjords that no ship our size has ever been into. And this is the route map that we had. It's very different to what we actually ended up doing. But you get the idea here that we are going and exploring for 15 days, starting in Ushuaia and finishing up in Torres del Paine National Park. Now, it might be very different to what you see here, as I said, but we will be going into so many different fjords and mountains and checking out Patagonia as much as humanly possible from land, the sea, and the air. Just finishing up here, Snow Hill. As I mentioned, I want you to take note of Snow Hill over here on the right-hand side. Now, how we do Snow Hill is back actually in 2005, we discovered an emperor penguin colony on Snow Hill. And then the year after, we sent the BBC film crew down to film March of the Penguins, which I believe is on Netflix. That was all done through Quark Expeditions, which I find pretty interesting. Now, how we do it is we get the Ultramarine as close as we possibly can to Snow Hill Island, and we use the helicopters to ferry everyone over, landing on Snow Hill, which I'll show you in a second. Just here, landing on Snow Hill and hiking about 1.5 kilometers over to see the emperor penguins. We have two trips. We have the one that just does Snow Hill Island, and we also have this one here, which is 18 days in length, which includes Snow Hill and the peninsula. So if you're wanting to tick 2 boxes and do Snow Hill and step foot on the 7th continent of Antarctica, this is the trip for you. As I mentioned, landing here on a makeshift runway or a makeshift airport, hiking in, and then seeing these guys up close. So these big fluffy guys on the left are the babies, and the ones on well, obviously the bigger ones here are the adults. So this is the largest penguin in the world. I don't know too many people that have actually been lucky enough to see them outside of obviously my colleagues and a few guests with Quark. But this is the photographic moment that most people want. To be up close and personal with an emperor penguin, again, the largest penguin in the world, is just something that you have to see to believe. Now, that is it for me, guys. I really appreciate you joining today. Thank you so much. I know that was a lot of information. And Susan, I am sorry that I went a little bit over, but you did ask me to talk about everything Quark, and I couldn't do that in 30 minutes.
No worries, Jake. That was a lot of really, really great information and a lot of places that we now all want to go to just because of all this amazing information you gave us. So to everybody watching this, give your expedition experts a call at either the Expedia Cruises office in Red Deer or in Olds. Stop in and see us. We can definitely help. Of course, we've got a good friend, Jake. So we don't know the answer. He's just a phone call away to help us and to help you guide in finding that perfect location and be that less than 1% of the population in the world that's set foot on Antarctica is something that would be great to brag about at parties.
Yeah, and while I'm here, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to hit me up. I've been lucky enough to do both polls, and I have a lot of knowledge and understanding of the destinations there. So if there's anyone on the call that has any questions, now's the time to ask.
Anybody with any questions? Everybody go be quiet.
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. You busy guy, you've got lots of people to talk to, so we super appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to spend with us, and to everybody that will be watching this on our YouTube channel and our Facebook and everywhere else that we're going to post it. And we're going to look forward to sending some people down to Antarctica or up to the Arctic.
Yeah, I love it. Appreciate it, Susan. You have a great day. Emily, thanks so much. I'm glad you had a great trip. And bye for now.
Okay,
Sounds good. Take care. Bye.